So you all share like three really different perspectives on learning language, right? You all have experience learning a language other than English, um, or learning English, but it was different. So Judy, you talked about how, growing up, it was really important, right, to your family, and they really made it a point for you to learn Laos. They were thinking about the future and you teaching it to your children, and so it was a big thing, and you had your grandparents and your family around you. But then somewhere along the way, that connection was lost. And so you kind of lost that connection to your language, but also kind of your culture and your family. And so it sounds like, I mean, you kind of have a similar thing with Marisa where it was kind of traumatic with the language, because you lost that connection. And so now you're trying to reconnect. And you guys both talked about, Maritza and Judy talking about the translating, right? Having that commonality of like trying to translate, and there's certain words that don't translate directly, or there's like proper words that don't translate directly. And so there's some commonalities, even though you have different language experiences, there's some commonalities between you guys. And I just think it was really cool to hear that, both of your experiences were different. Brittany's, yours was different, but there were some commonalities among that. Hearing Maritza, coming to a country that speaks a whole different language,
Mhm.
and having to learn at such a young age, and how you relate that to the children in your classroom. You're like, I want them to know, I want to help them as much as I can, because you had such a painful, like traumatic experience where you and your sister were like crying on the way to school. And how different would it have been had you had an educator who was more, aware and just supporting, even if they are monolingual, right? Like Brittany is monolingual, but she's still supporting those children, making that effort. And so I think your guys' voices are just really important. And Judy talking about how, like, I want the children to know, like, I can speak your language. I understand. I want to talk to you. Just because we're different ethnicities doesn't mean I can't speak with you, or share that. So making every effort to make those children just feel comfortable, and you guys are taking your own experiences with language and really using that in your life. And right, like Marita said, oh, I overcame it, made me stronger. But you know, you learn that language, and you went through that, and it is a part of you. It's just unfortunate that it was like a traumatic, like scary thing at that age, right? And it would have been nice for it to be a different kind of experience. And that, I think our work is us trying to, like you guys are all doing, amazing educators are really trying to support those children, and making sure that they don't experience the same thing that you all did. And then Brittany learning later on in life, like making the effort to make sure that her children, identifying like being lost with family members or in-laws, and you're like, I don't feel as comfortable practicing with them, right? Because they're older
Uh-huh.
and they're
Yeah.
adults,
You don't wanna
and
mess up.
yeah, we do tend to judge, right? We do tend to judge, and it's interesting how you're like, I'm more comfortable with my own children, and I'm more comfortable with the children in my classroom, because we're all learning together. And even more so, they're toddlers, they're learning all language, right? So you guys had some really different stories, but also a lot of like commonalities among you, and you have different perspectives, and um, some painful experiences, but also some things that you learned along the way that I think really shaped you as people. And like now learning language now, or like Judy trying to learn the language again and teach it to her husband and her child. So keeping that alive. And then Marisa saying, you know what, I'm bilingual now though, and I can do it, and I still help my parents. And sometimes we still struggle, and as adults. So I think it's really cool. I'm glad you guys shared your perspectives. You all had different perspectives, but there were some commonalities and some like common threads. And I think a lot of people can relate to the the different perspectives you guys had, being in the world that we're in, and we're wanting to really reach out to others and experience these different languages and cultures. And Brittany talking about like, I want to learn different languages and cultures, and I want to learn whatever I can. And Judy's like, yeah, I want to do the same thing. It's interesting that I think the view now is more leaning towards like wanting to learn more and being more exposed to different things. And I think the work that you all are doing based on your experiences is lending itself really well to that. So thank you guys so much for sharing your experiences. They're really different, but all really powerful. And I think they're really needed to be heard. So thank you.
Thank you. I feel like
Yeah,
all of us
thank
wanna
you so
make these
much.
connections with the kids, and it's like our passion, our drive to be their voice, and we know how important that their home language is, that yeah, we want to be a part of that, even though we don't know their language. It could be something like Cantonese. I had a student who spoke Cantonese. I knew nothing about Cantonese, but I knew that that was important to her. So I'm going to learn a word. Like I'm going to do it because it's important to them, and we want them to like be validated about their feelings and their culture.
I think that's so powerful.